Keith Sensen had never felt conflicted about any other mission in his life. It wasn't that Keith was always happy with everything going on around him. Though he believed in the Never-Seen and their cause, being the golden child of the rebellion was a lot of pressure sometimes. And as warm as it felt to have his mother glow about his legacy and his importance, after spending the earliest years of his life under the harsh criticism and detachment of his father, setting the expectations for him so high it felt like it was just begging for the answer to the question, what would happen if they failed? If Keith didn't fulfill his legacy? Keith knew better than to complain around his friends in the Never-Seen, of course, who, despite their sincere care and protectiveness over him, still resented the fact that his familial connection to Lady Gisela made him so important at such a young age. It was part of the reason he hid behind humor and built his own, separate personality from the steep expectations his mother was counting on him to live up to. That way, if the Black Swan won, he wouldn't have nothing left. He could still be Keith without the Sensen. But he never felt like anything they were doing as a group might be misjudged. Not until this specific situation, and it wasn't even that the principal was wrong, it was just the way it was being handled. Keith had known his whole life that somewhere out there he had a nemesis, the Black Swan's greatest weapon, their moonlark. And he knew, naturally, that this moonlark would be someone around his age, someone similar to him, but working for the wrong side. The moonlark would be dangerous. It was a good thing Keith was raised to be dangerous too. However, he couldn't help remembering the perspective he'd gotten the first and only time before now that he had met her. As soon as it was learned that the moonlark had been found and brought to the Lost Cities, Keith was tasked with running into her and having a small conversation that could be disguised as a friendly discussion with another kid her age, seeing if he could get any information out of her. He had ran into her purposefully in Atlantis, in Kelser Disney's shop, Slurps and Burps, which was an epic name for an apothecary, if he did say so himself. He had bumped into her accidentally, scrambling to ask if she was okay afterwards and helping her pick up the stuff she'd dropped. He knew he'd found the right girl when she looked up at him with her rich brown eyes with little gold flecks. It was unexpected. It was unique. It was pretty. But it was also a sign that she was the only elf in the world of her kind, meaning she had to be the Black Swan's moonlark. "I'm so sorry," Keith apologized as he handed her the things she had dropped. "I can be a bit uncoordinated when I see a pretty girl." He flashed her his famous smirk, hoping she'd let her guard down or perhaps blush at the flattery and let him begin talking. And she did flush a little. But her emotions, which were way stronger than your average elf, by the way, and took a lot of getting used to, told her that she was really feeling slightly confused, a bit disbelieving. Had no one ever told her she was pretty? He wasn't even actually flirting with her. He was literally trying to get information out of her so he could help take down her organization. But objectively speaking, she was a beautiful girl. There was no way he was the first guy to say so. "I mean, it's probably mostly my fault anyway," she mumbled, which was ridiculous because Keith had purposefully knocked into her. "I'm a bit uncoordinated all the time." Keith laughed, surprised at her response. He wasn't sure what he was expecting when he first met the moonlark, but she definitely wasn't what he was expecting. "Your eyes are brown," Keith noted, noticing the way she looked down after his comment. Hey, I didn't say it was a bad thing, but you don't happen to know anything about why, do you?" But she was genuinely perplexed when she shrugged. "I grew up with humans, and the air is different there. Maybe that's why I don't have blue eyes? I'm not sure." She grew up with humans. Yes, her mom had mentioned something like that, actually, but it that really highlighted the differences between their situations. Keith was raised to fight for the Neverseen, to be their powerful ally, to have a legacy. This girl was born to be the Moonlark. But he doubted she had even ever heard the words Black Swan. She was just now learning what elves were. A part of his heart cracked at the idea that one day this sweet, slightly clumsy, and irrationally insecure girl would be turned into a weapon for the Black Swan. "Hey, Sophie," Dex Disney said when he saw her. Keith had seen him around before, since this wasn't his first time in Slurps and Burps, but he was slightly surprised to see that he had already befriended the Moonlark. Sophie. "I have to show you what this does." He held up a small vial and then looked over at Keith. "Oh, hi. Were you guys talking, or..." "Nah, just seeing if she was alright after I swept her off her feet." Keith winked at her, and she sighed, unable to hide her smile. "He bumped into me, making me drop everything I was holding," Sophie translated for Dex. "Yes, and now I need to grab some new epic prank supplies and get out of here," Keith said. "But it was nice meeting you, Sophie." He navigated the crowd of people in the shop expertly, making sure that he was gone before she could ask his name. That had not been too long ago, and here she was, in Neverseen custody. Keith would be celebrating that particular victory along with everyone else if it weren't for the fact that he'd met her, and wasn't sure she didn't know anything. At least, she hadn't. A lot could have changed since she first came to the Lost Cities, he supposed. The Black Swan could have found her and explained her role by now. He hated that thought. She really did seem genuinely nice. But that didn't stop him from feeling conflicted about the fact that they had abducted her. "Hey, Keith," Alvar said as he walked into his base. "Oh, hey, Alvar," Keith said with less bravado than usual. "Just give the imparter to my son." His mother's voice snapped, and Keith realized Alvar must have been talking to her. She didn't seem to be in an awesome mood, either. Oh, joy. "Hi, Mom," Keith said as Alvar handed him the imparter. She didn't bother greeting him, launching right into her list of frustrations with the operation. "We can't probe her mind, and the boy knows nothing." "What boy?" "There was a boy with her when the girl was retrieved, so they had to take him to prevent witness evidence," his mother explained impatiently. "She refuses to respond to negatively incentivized interrogation and insists she knows nothing." "Incentivized interrogation," Keith said slowly. "So torture." "She's the Moonlark, Keith," his mother snapped. "You know how dangerous she is, but she refuses to answer any questions under any kind of duress. So we need a different approach. If you could use your abilities to calm her, make her think it's safe to talk." Keith was slightly revealed to hear this change in approach. He wanted to ask her why that wasn't the first thing they tried, but decided against it, especially since this change in methods made him feel less conflicted about kidnapping a girl who may or may not even know she was the Moonlark. The sight of Sophie, the girl he still remembered from their brief interaction in Atlantis, with burns and bruises from their negatively incentivized interrogation methods, it made him sick to his stomach. Especially as she began to wake up, and the fear and confusion and desperation radiated off of her in waves. Keith took a deep breath and reminded himself that he was the only one of them so far who had actually interacted with the Moonlark. He'd seen Sophie, the innocent girl who would one day be a dangerous weapon. The others didn't know. They thought they were doing the right thing. Stabilizing himself, he allowed himself to feel in controlled measures every amount of worry or panic that ever made itself known to him. He let it stir around inside of him until he was ready to say the word that would end the storm.
Calm.
The familiar feeling of someone's emotions fading into the one he'd suggested for them to feel relieved him, especially since she looked peaceful and innocent. The word kept coming to mind. Innocent. Even though he knew it wouldn't always be true. Still, he kept his hood up despite the fact that she was blindfolded and mimicked Geethan's voice so that there was no chance she could recognize him. Because if she did, her artificial calm would give way to betrayal, despite the fact that they had only spoken once, and she wouldn't answer any questions then. "You're awake again," he stated as he came closer. Her emotions wavered, but she stayed steady in the light of his command. "It's okay. I'm not gonna hurt you. I know they hurt you, but I won't." He hated calling his fellow never-seen members they, but he needed Sophie to trust him.
"Then, are you with the Black Swan?"
Weakly, his stomach dropped. So she did know what that was. A part of him had been hoping she would still be clueless. "No," he answered honestly.
"So, then, was it the Black Swan who kidnapped me?"
He decided not to mention that he was part of the group that had kidnapped her. "No," he responded again. Her next words were mumbled, but it sounded like,
"Then who the hell are the Black Swan?"
which made him have to choke back laughter. So maybe she was still clueless. It sounded like the Black Swan had either reached out to her or allowed her to learn something about them, but she was still not sure if they were the good guys or the bad guys or what they stood for. "So you've never heard of Project Moonlark, then?" He released his hold on her emotions, wanting to feel her reaction, and she definitely recognized the words. "Can you just tell me what you know about it?"
"So this is still an interrogation?"
Well, if she was being snarky, he was definitely getting better communication from her than the others who had tried. "Not really. I'm just as clueless as you are," Keith said, going for relatability. "I just figured you might know more about it than I do, but..."
"But I don't."
She agreed.
"So can I just go? If that's all you need me for?"
Trepidation, fear. She knew she was pushing, but she was desperate. She didn't deserve this. One day she would be a dangerous weapon. One day he would have to fight her. One day he would do everything in his power to take her down and the organizations she represented with her. But today she was an innocent girl named Sophie, and it was unfair to treat her like the Moonlark before she even knew the word. "I'm not supposed to do this," he whispered, coming closer to her and loosening her bonds. "But I don't think it's fair. Not yet, at least."
"What's that supposed to mean?"
Her voice was weak, but he liked her attitude, and once again he felt a pang of sadness for her destiny. Unless she chose to work against the Black Swan. Was that even possible? Keith knew his mother had tampered with some of his memories as a child, which was something of a sore spot, but he knew it was supposed to be for the best, so he could fulfill his legacy. What if the Black Swan had tampered with Sophie's, and any day she'd unlock the memories that had told her the Black Swan were her only friends, and she should help them squash any functioning methods of bringing about change? Well, she didn't have those memories today. "It means I'm helping you get out," he said, impossibly quietly. They'd never suspect it was him, of course. He believed in the Never-Seen's cause wholeheartedly, even if his supposed legacy occasionally irked him. So it should be safe for him to do. "I'll tell them I sedated you again."
"So you are with my kidnappers?"
"That was a misunderstanding," he corrected. "And I don't speak on the behalf of the people I work with, but I think it's best if they don't know about this. So, Pretend you were sedated again, and then wait. He gave her hushed instructions about how to know when the Neverseen would be mostly asleep and how to get past anyone who isn't.
If you're gonna rescue one of us, rescue Dex.
Sophie pointed weakly across the room.
He really didn't do anything. He shouldn't have been involved.
When Keith followed where she was pointing, he was shocked to see that Dexter's knee was there as well, in no better shape than Sophie. "I'll rescue you both," he promised, loosening Dex's bonds as well. He was a witness, Keith realized, but that didn't mean they had to hurt him, unless they had done that to make the Moonlark cooperate. Keith shook off the implications, not a fan of some of the mistakes the Neverseen had made tonight. But they were mistakes, and hopefully Keith was remedying them right now. He shook Dex awake, calmed him, and gave him the same instructions he gave Sophie. Before he left, he hesitated. Then he did something he really wasn't supposed to do. "We're called the Neverseen," he said. He wanted Sophie to know the name. "And when everything unfolds, remember that I was the one who helped you escape, not the Black Swan." Without another word, he left the room, hoping with everything in his heart that the two of them would make it out that night safely.